Yes, very warm good morning, all of you. Let's try to understand different type of economic systems, different type of social systems, the process of social change, the process of economic prosperity. Our life depends upon our planners. In our economic system, in our country, we have NITI Aayog. See its website. This is NITI Aayog, NITI, NITI Aayog. This makes planning for our country. It prepares the plan. The most unfortunate thing about our country is that we have a government only for 5 years. Therefore, when they prepare a plan, it is for 5 years. And later on, when a new government comes, they change the plans. If one government is adopting capitalism, the other government will come and they will start switching over to socialism, or vice versa. And then this way, economic prosperity cannot happen. We need long-term plans, right? Okay, what are the ideas written on Niti Aayog's website? Look at it. These ideas are cooperative federalism, competitive federalism, then sustainable development goal, then these are, so basically the idea of the government is to promote cooperative federalism, okay, and competitive federalism, okay. Okay, then do you find any vision document for Government of India? It must be there. Let us see. Because Niti Aayog is the basic body which is preparing the long-term vision, long-term plan for the Government of India. So try to check yourself. I'm not able to find. You can check yourself what is the long-term vision plan, right? What is the plan for before Government of India? What are the plans that the Government of India has for transformation of our country? Okay, next, let us try to understand what is society, what is the social institution. It is unfortunate that most of us do not understand the power of society, the power of institutions. Family is the oldest institution. According to sociology, family is the oldest institution and it is the most powerful institution. It is unfortunate that in social media, we people do not respect family as a great institution. The West is probably going towards breaking this institution. But in India, we have very strong heritage of this value for many, many years. Family has been the most important institution in India. Family is the first school, the first training center for every human being. Family is the institution where everybody learns the fundamentals of life, and therefore family is the most important institution. So what is written here in Google? Family. Family is an institution. In simple terms, a family can be referred to as a group that is deliberately created or created by the virtue of birth. It may be created to serve various purposes like protection, security, sense of belonging, controlled and disciplined behavior, and mating purpose. So family is the most important institution that we have in the society, and this should remain the most important and strong institution. Any process to break the family as an institution should be discouraged because this is the most important backbone of our society. There are continuous social media campaigns taking place these days wherein the family as an institution is mocked upon. The relation between husband and wife is mocked upon. Husbands are mocking wives and wives are mocking husband, and continuously an environment is created to support the new kind of relationship, live-in relationship, that kind of thing, which is not a family kind of relationship. So that is dangerous, where we must remember that different people have different belief system. Indian people always had a very strong beliefs about family. and family has been the most important institution in India, but that is not the case in many other countries. And therefore, those people who belong to those countries or those belief system, they try to influence you through social media to discard the family as a great institution. So remember, these attempts are made by some people to spread their ideas, to spread their beliefs, which are contrary to Indian belief system. Let us discourage all these arguments. Let us discourage all these beliefs. Let us continuously try to build and strengthen our greatest institution, that is family institution. We all should try to strengthen it. Now let us look at social change. Society is continuously changing. There never was a time when society was not changing. There are some things which remain intact. There are some things which keep changing. There are some common values which remain permanently fixed, while there are some things which keep on evolving. So process of change should always remain. Social change. What is social change? Social change is transformation of culture, social institution. Social change is the way human interactions, relationships transforms culture, social institutions over time, and a profound impact on society. Social change involves alteration of social order, society. It involves, over a period of time, there are some practices that creep into society which are not very healthy practices. Those practices should be removed. Examples of social change. What are some examples of social change? These are the examples. Reformation, abolition of slave trade, civil rights movement.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry to disturb you. Sir, students are waiting in the waiting room.
Why don't you ask them to join? Okay.
Yes, sir, I've asked them. They are waiting in the waiting room, sir.
Okay, examples of social change: reformation, civil rights movement, feminist movement, LGBTQ, green movement. These are all examples of social change. Right? Now, some of these social change movement are completely opposite to our thought process, because they are influenced by certain thought processes. For example, LGBTQ. This movement, LGBTQ movement, is just opposite to Indian philosophy. But the beauty of Indian philosophy, Indian thought process is that we do not discourage even contrary ideas. Indian thought process is that even opposite, contrary ideas are not discouraged. People are allowed to express. People are allowed to express their ideas. People are allowed to express differences of ideas. That is all welcome. We do not discourage people to go for differences in ideas. That is the beautiful aspect about Indian culture. So LGBTQ is just opposite to your thought process, just opposite to Indian philosophy. Still, you can find it. Similarly, live-in relationship is just opposite to Indian belief system. But we people, because of age-old sanskar of respecting diversity, respecting differences of ideas, we even allow that in India. You can find live-in relationship in India also. But it doesn't mean that because you tolerate differences, therefore you allow dilution of your own culture. That should not be there. So social change is welcome so long as it is positive, so long as it is healthy, so long as it is there to help in the development of our society. But if it is trying to destroy your own culture, if it is trying to destroy your foundation, if it is trying to destroy your heritage, this must be opposed. Today is a time when we people should not accept social change. Rather, we should oppose the influence of those practices which are just contrary to our belief system. We should resist them, and we should resist to them means we should not oppose them, but we should rebuild our culture. We should rebuild our faith in our traditional values. That is the important thing. Let us ask another question. What are the cause of social change? There are four common causes. These change cause are social institutions, populations, environment, all these, and technologies. All these are influencing. Technology is changing, that's why society is changing. Institutions are changing, population is changing, environmental pressures are changing. And most important thing is, the influence of different schools. Today, India is under direct influence of the Western schools. Indian people are completely under the influence of the West, and therefore they will adopt anything that comes from West. So the society is completely transforming under the influence of the West. However, there is need to reorient people. There is need to bring people back to their own understanding. Let them apply thinking. Let them realize that they belong to the greatest culture. They should try to relook at their heritage, relook at their practices. There's no point in blindly adopting the Western practices. There is no point in blindly following the West. There is a need to apply proper thinking. There is a need to respect the great heritage, the great practices. So, social change is taking place. Many factors are responsible. Now, let us understand what are the important social changes that have taken place in the past century. We have already discussed the green movement is a very positive direction. Green movement is a social change that we should all adopt. What is green movement? Green movement says our society should now adopt environment friendly products. It should respect environment. Greenery should be promoted. Trees should be saved. We should not go for massive construction. Rather than we should preserve our forests, protect our natural ecosystem. In fact, green movement is very close to our traditional Indian beliefs, wherein we respected our nature and accepted everything that was close to our nature. What are the sources of social change? These are the social changes. The sources of changes are technologies, physical environment, demographic environment, cultural environment, economic environment, political environment. Okay, this is so good. Now, the most important aspect that is influencing social change is obviously economy. Let us look at different economic systems. Types of economic systems. Fundamentally, we have two systems: market system, closed system, or command economic system. Command economic system is what Russia adopted or other communist countries adopted, and market economic system is what America has adopted or other type of economies adopted. So different type of market economies are market economy, planned economy, centrally planned economy, socialist economies, communist economies. Market economy means America, Britain, developed countries. Then socialist country means countries like Russia. Communistic countries, countries like Cuba, countries like China, where everything is controlled by a single party. There are no classes. Everything is determined, centrally planned. These economies are centrally planned economies. And then we have mixed economic systems like India. Mixed economic system is India. India is an example of mixed economy. Right? Now, let us come back to our fundamental discussion. What is the basic premise of socialism or communism? The basic premise of socialism or communism is classless society. What is the ideal? The ideal was given by the Karl Marx, who said that we can have a classless society. We can have a society where there is no class. How do you have it? By struggle. If workers get united and they kill or shoot the capitalist class, then what will happen? Only one class will be left. That is worker class. They will be owners of all the resources. They will be owners of everything. They will be the only class that will be existing in the society. That was the idea of Karl Marx, who said that if there is only one class left, then what will happen? There is no class struggle thereafter. So class struggle is natural. It will always take place. And what is the solution? The solution is only one, which Karl Marx offered. The solution is class struggle. Class struggle means the working class will destroy the capitalist class, and thereafter there will be only one class that is left. Karl Marx had written a wonderful book. It is Das Kapital, right? So if you get the time, you can read this book. It's a wonderful book. Karl Marx was a renowned German philosopher, economist, historian, sociologist. So he gave the idea of what we call as Marxism or capitalism or socialism. These are fundamental beliefs that were given by Karl Marx. Now, the opposite of Karl Marx theory is the theory of market economy. All economists, like the economists like Adam Smith and other people, advocated for free market forces. That is called market economy. What exactly is market economy? Market economy is that economy wherein the market forces determine everything. Market forces means demand and supply forces. They determine everything, right? So the market economy is a system where the law of supply and demand will determine everything. They will determine what the society needs. Market economy is an economic system in which the decisions regarding investment, production, distribution are guided by price signals, which are created by the forces of demand and supply. While the economic system, which is there in capitalist, in Marxism, is centralized planning. It is the government which decides where the investment will flow. It is the government which will decide what should be done. The opposite of it is market economy. In market economy, the government doesn't decide where to invest the money. The government doesn't decide where the economic resources will be invested. It is purely the demand and supply, the law of demand and supply, they decide. The government focuses only on a few things. Minimum governance. Minimum governance is the essential characteristics of market economy. What is the most essential condition of government in market economy? The government will try to focus only on 3-4 things. What are those things? Maintaining law and order, maintaining international relations and defense of the country, and ensuring some essential services for the people. Essential services are like healthcare, like security, defense, disaster management, fundamental education, things like that. Rest everything is taken care by the private sector. The government keeps withdrawing itself from all activity. That is the basic principle of minimum governance. So minimum governance is essential in market-driven economy. And if market-driven economy is adopted, it leads to development of an economic system where everybody is focusing on market forces. So market forces enable every economy to progress. The market forces decide what is the most important. What is, if I ask you, which is better option? Market economy is better or communist better? You look yourself, you compare yourself. In communist system, everything is centrally planned. There is no individual freedom. There is no individual liberty. There is no freedom for individual. Freedom of expression is not there. Freedom of speech is not there. Freedom to decide is not there. You cannot decide your career. The government will decide what you have to do. You cannot decide what will be your future. The government is going to decide what will be your future. So things are planned by the central government. There is no scope for individual creativity. As against this, in market economy, you have full freedom. You can decide what you want to become. You can decide whether you want to become an engineer or a professor or a teacher, or you want to become a CEO, or you want to become an entrepreneur, or you want to become a technocrat. So you have full freedom, full liberty. So that is a plus point here in the case of market economy. How will you decide? In market economy, you will decide, look at the overall forces of demand and supply in the economy. There are different sectors in the economy where the market trends are reflecting. There are some sectors where there is huge demand. There are some sectors where there is less demand. Which sector you would like to go? Obviously, you would like to go in a sector where there is huge demand, right? For example, if I ask you, can you list down 4 sectors which are going to be in demand in the years to come? Obviously, you will say green economy sector. Green economy sectors include environment friendly products, environmental friendly technologies, environment friendly resources. Then sectors like new technology based sectors like online education, online healthcare services, etc. Then sectors which are related to sustainable development goal attainment like waste management, implementation of new environmental standards, green cities, smart city projects. These are emerging sectors. Then related to forestry, agroforestry, community forestry, organic agriculture. These are all emerging sectors. There is huge demand in these sectors. So what will happen? Many of you would like to take up your career in these sectors. So what will you do? You will acquire specific skills for these sectors. To grow in these sectors will become your passion. To grow in these sectors, you will start dreaming. And when you will attain progress in these sectors, you will feel happiness. You will feel greater and greater joy, accomplishment. The biggest advantage of market economy is freedom. Is the biggest advantage. You have a choice what to do, and you can pick up your choice based on your passion, based on your strengths, based on your interest. You can decide what you have to do. You can pick up your career purely based on your interest, your passion, your background, right? Some of you who have been from urban areas, who have never been to villages, might be interested in going to villages, lead a truly rustic life, enjoy, there is a huge difference between the cultures of urban and villages. The city life is a very mechanic life. People do not interact with each other much. People are totally focused on their profession. The interaction among people involves very less emotions. People are completely focused on their work. They are, overstressed. This is the city life everywhere. At the same time, city life has many advantages. The advantages in urban life is you are focused on your profession. You are able to, you are very well trained in professional etiquettes. You are very well trained in a specific skill, and you're completely devoted to that task, that skill, and you maintain very high professional relations only. The village life is just opposite to it. The village life, it is not the profession that is important. It is the emotional bonding that is important. It is your ability to connect with others through emotional bondage that becomes the most important. So village life is based on some other characteristics which are most important in villages. So what is the outcome? Wherever villages are there, you find people to be spending more time in social engagements, less time on their profession. People spending more time in building their relationship, in communicating with each other, in creating there is greater amount of trust, greater amount of interaction, greater amount of communication there in the village life. So it is up to your choice. If suppose some of you wish to settle down in villages, you have a freedom. You can move from urban areas to village areas. You can pick up a vocation of your choice. You can pick up a business of your choice. You can pick up, if you want to enjoy the farming as a profession, you can adopt farming as a profession. That's not possible in centrally planned economies, but that is possible in market economies. Therefore, in market economies, people immediately switch over jobs. The job rotation is very fast. Sometimes you work for 4 years in one industry and thereafter for another 3 years or 4 years, you switch over to another job. Because depending upon your choice, you pick up the profession, and if you're not satisfied, you immediately change your field and you take up another field. This is the advantage of the market economy. So there are certain agenda that people have. Agenda means toolkits. Yes, toolkits. People, there are different economies, there are different opinions, belief systems. People are there working to propagate certain belief system. There are certain capitalist economies, they are supporting all those thinkers who are trying to promote capitalism. So if you are writing in favor of capitalism, you might be able to get some support from some economies which are primarily capitalist economies, and they may help you financially to support you so that you can promote the ideas of capitalism. The opposite of it is also possible, that there are certain economies which are purely communist economies. They want to support somebody who can promote the ideas for communism. So if you start writing in favoring of communism, if you start supporting communism, if you start encouraging people to switch over to communism, then probably you will get some financial support from some economies which are purely communism economies. So this is the modern, you can say, silent war between different political belief systems, economic belief systems. There are beliefs which are supporting the capitalist economies. There are beliefs which are supporting communist belief ideologies. And these two ideologies are opposite ideologies, and therefore there is a silent war going on between them. The economies which are supporting the economies which are supporting market economies, they are dominated by United States, NASA, and a few other countries. So NASA is the main body at international level which is trying to promote the political economic belief system which is based on the market economy framework. On the other hand, the communist countries like China and a few countries, China, North Korea, and a few countries, they are also trying to promote communist ideology. So different groups are trying to write articles, books, study material, courses to support their belief system. As a student, you should have open eyes, open ears, open heart. You should be willing to study every kind of belief system. You should be willing to learn every kind of economic political system, because you have freedom to decide which economic system you admire. You have freedom. You can respect, you should respect every belief system, but you can decide which is the best depending upon your own judgment, your own mind, your own belief system. You have to take a decision and support that. Today, majority of the countries have democracies, and the biggest advantage of democracy is that you can use your freedom while deciding who should govern your country. Through your decision making, you can influence the process of selection of the power. The power is the most important thing. Everybody wants to become powerful. So now in democracy, the source of power is in public. People have the power. They can exercise their power. If somebody comes who is behaving like a dictator, people will not vote for him, and next time he will be out of the power. While if there are some people who are always taking the interest of the people in consideration. There are some people who always try to do some acts for the benefit of common people, then those people will be selected. In democratic process, such people will get high votes. So what will happen? These people will be able to get power, and they will be able to use that power again for supporting common people, for helping common people, and these people will be able to remain at the top positions in the government because they will be selected. They will be the ministers, they will be the prime ministers, or they will be the power holders. The social and the political systems go hand in hand. Political systems, economic systems go hand in hand. A market-based economy will go for democracy. A centrally planned economy will go for communism, and there will be no democracy there. In communism, there is no democracy. People do not have the choice. People do not have the right to decide who will lead. They do not have this power. This freedom, this power is there only in democracy, which can be possible in market economies. Now, the social processes are also influenced by writers. And as I told you, there are two types of writers: leftist, rightist. Leftist writers are those who are heavily influenced by communists, and probably they are getting support also from communist countries. So these are the people who try to create a social framework which according to them is the ideal. Which is the ideal framework in countries like Russia or China? Countries like China do not have religion. Countries like China do not have classes, a single class. Countries like China do not have anything other than focused primarily on believing, having their belief that people have no freedom. So what will happen? They promote a social norm, they promote social philosophy, which are like this. So what happened? The leftist writers, they try to influence the society to become a classless society, to become a truly communist society, to become a classless society where everything is in the hand of the government. The opposite of it is market economy, where the writers encourage freedom, and therefore those who are writers who are influenced by market economy, they try to write articles, they try to write books, they try to write contents which are supporting free market economy, right? So this is the basic difference that we have to notice. Whatever we are reading or whatever we are observing in social media, we must remember that these are all influenced. If an article is coming in social media or on WhatsApp or on Facebook, we should remember that this is being influenced by one particular ideology, belief system. There are so many ideologies. I've just tried to summarize it in very brief. But I also told you that our social framework is under threat, because our family system, for Indian society, the most strongest institution is family institution, and the traditional values, the traditional cultures, the traditional practices are helping the Indian society to survive. But as I told you in the beginning, there are some people who do not want Indian belief system, Indian culture, Indian practices to thrive, to continue to grow, to survive. Therefore, what they are trying to abolish these things and implant the kind of societies that are prevailing either in communist countries or those prevailing in the developed countries like United States, based on the market economic system. So people will try to influence each other. It is a natural process. You have to understand your own country, your own society, your own background, and you have to protect your belief system, your ideas, your societies. Over a period of time, there may be some bad practices in your society. So you have to remove those bad practices. But while removing those bad practices, you have to try to protect your society. I mean, you don't have to kill the society, you have to kill the bad practices only. You have to save these societies. The society has to be saved. The social practices, the social customs, the social framework, the basic values, the fundamental values have to be protected. Only thing that you have to destroy is those evils that have come. There are, over a period of time, many evils enter into every society. These evil practices have to be identified and eliminated. For example, earlier we in our Indian society we had a bad practice of what we call as sati pratha. This practice was abolished by Ram Mohan Rai ji. Then Indian society did not have the system of remarriage of widows. This bad practice was removed by Ishwarchand Vidyasagar. So on. So many bad practices were there in Indian society, like Mrityu Bhoj. Now, many saintly people came forward and fought against this bad practice and tried to stop the bad practice of Mrityu Bhoj. So it is a natural process. If a society is old, for generations it has been living in a particular style, there are possibilities that some mistakes, some errors, some communication gaps might be there. Those should be eliminated and society should be revived so that this society can help you in your development. Healthy society is the best form of medicine for any society. And if a society is having positivity, good beliefs, good ideas, all these things will contribute to development of that society. So thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.